In June 1991, a father and son left Las Vegas in a 1985 Winnebago. They were driving to the Grand Canyon. They never arrived. 33 years later, a drone found their RV buried in the desert, 7 miles off any road. Inside, still buckled in their seats, were two skeletons. The driver's hands were still on the wheel. In the passenger seat, an 8-month sobriety medallion hung from a cervical vertebra. On the dashboard, a silver watch. It had stopped at 11:47 a.m. For 33 years, Patty Ashford waited by her phone every June 14th at 9 p.m. Her husband had promised to call at that exact time. He never did. She never stopped waiting. The day they found him, she was 85 years old, and his watch, stopped for 33 years, would run again. You'll see how a father's road trip became a son's last chance at redemption. How one wrong turn and a faulty fuel gauge turned preparation into a death trap. And how one woman's 33-year vigil ended with a watch that finally learned to run forward. This is the Ashford Desert Disappearance. The case where being found didn't bring them back, but it brought them home. Las Vegas, Nevada, June 14, 1991. Dawn. The KOA campground off Boulder Highway wakes slowly in the pre-dawn heat. Space 47B holds a 1985 Winnebago Chieftain, cream and brown stripes, Michigan plates, diesel engine already ticking as it cools from yesterday's long drive through the Mojave. Inside, Jim Ashford wakes at 5:30 a.m., same as every morning for 32 years at the GM plant, same as every morning of this trip. Old habits don't retire when you do. The RV's interior is dim and close, smelling of last night's instant coffee and the Old Spice he splashed on before bed. He checks his watch. The silver Seiko with the GM logo, 5:31 a.m. Friday, June 14, 1991. Day 6 of the trip. Danny's still asleep in the back, curled on his side, silver AA medallion catching the faint light from the window. 8 months sober, 247 days. Jim can hear his son's breathing, steady, deep. The breathing of someone who's finally sleeping without chemical assistance. Jim moves quietly, fills the coffee pot with bottled water, sets it on the propane stove. While it heats, he retrieves his leather trip log from the dashboard and opens it to yesterday's entry. June 13, 1991. Moab UT to Las Vegas NV, 437 miles, clear skies, temp 112 degrees F at Mesquite. Fuel, full tank at Moab 30. 2 gallons, Danny doing well, no cravings mentioned. He took 23 Polaroids today. Arrives Vegas 6:47 p.m., called Patty 9:00 p.m. Jim uncaps his pen, tap tap, pause, tap tap, his rhythm unconscious as breathing. June 14, 1991. Las Vegas NV to Grand Canyon AZ planned. Route US 95S to I-40E, EST, 280 miles. Weather clear, hot. He closes the log, touches his watch face, that grounding gesture, feeling time move forward under his fingertips. Outside, Stan Kowalski is making his rounds. Camp host for 11 years, Vietnam vet, knows every RV in his section by sight. He waves at the Winnebago in 47B, Michigan plates, older guy and his kid, been here 2 nights, quiet, no trouble. Saw them yesterday at the camp store buying ice and Dr. Pepper. Stan checks his clipboard. Space 47B checked out for this morning. Heading to the Grand Canyon, the older guy said, 3-week road trip, father and son. Stan thinks good for them. Wishes he'd done something like that with his own kid before the kid stopped returning calls. He moves on to check Space 48A. He'll remember this moment for the rest of his life. The last time he saw them alive. Inside the Winnebago, coffee's ready. Jim pours 2 cups, his black Danny's with 2 sugars and light cream. He sets Danny's on the small table and taps his son's shoulder. We're burning daylight. Danny groans, opens one eye. It's not even 6. 5:47, daylight's burning, their phrase, the one that's followed them from Michigan, from Danny's childhood, from fishing trips before dawn when Jim would shake him awake and say those exact words even when the sun hadn't risen yet. Danny sits up, rubs the medallion between his thumb and forefinger, that gesture that's become automatic over 8 months, the physical proof he's doing what he said he'd do. He takes the coffee, sips. Perfect, he says, and Jim nods once, affection through service, through remembering how his son takes his coffee. They eat breakfast, turkey sandwiches from the igloo cooler, the snap click of its latch familiar now, comforting. Danny cracks his knuckles twice on each hand before eating. Jim reads the weather report from the AM radio. Clear skies across Nevada and Arizona. High temperatures expected, 115 to 125 degrees in desert regions. Hot one, Danny observes, will run the AC. Jim taps the fuel gauge with his index finger. The needle sits just past F, full tank. He filled it yesterday at a Chevron in Vegas. Watch the numbers click past 29 gallons. We're good. By 6:48 a.m., they're pulling out of Space 47B. Stan Kowalski waves from his golf cart. Jim waves back. The Winnebago turns onto Boulder Highway, merges into sparse early morning traffic, heads south toward US 95. Behind them, Las Vegas shrinks in the mirrors, casinos and wedding chapels, and the last outpost of civilization they'll see for hours. Ahead, the desert. Route 95 cutting south through nothing, through heat. Through landscape that doesn't forgive mistakes. Danny's got the laminated map spread across his lap. Jim's map with its three-color highlighting, yellow for primary route, blue for alternates, pink for points of interest. Straight shot down 95, Danny says. Then east on I-40 at Needles. We'll be at the Grand Canyon by 3. Good. Jim adjusts his rearview mirror, once for angle, once to wipe it clean. We'll see it at sunset the right way. They drive through the outskirts of Vegas, pawn shops and liquor stores giving way to industrial yards giving way to nothing. The city ends abruptly, like someone drew a line and then there's just desert. Danny puts a tape in the deck. CCR, have you ever seen the rain? His choice for the first hour. The sky is blue, not Michigan blue, not forgiving blue. This blue is predatory, merciless. The kind that traps heat, holds it. Turns the air into something you can taste, metal and dust and distance. Mile markers count down. The temperature climbs, 95 at 8 a.m., 105 at 9, 112 by 10. Jim taps the fuel gauge, 3/4, he frowns. They've driven almost 80 miles, should have burned more than a quarter tank. He taps it again, the needle doesn't move. Gauge acting funny? Danny asks. Might be sticky. Jim clears his throat 3 times. We'll top off in Searchlight, better safe than sorry. But something's nagging at him, the same instinct that kept him alive for 32 years in a factory where machines could kill you if you weren't paying attention. The gauge read full when they left Vegas. Now, 80 miles later, it's reading 3/4, which means it's either accurate and they are fine, or it's stuck and they're burning fuel without knowing it. Jim makes a mental note, don't trust the gauge. Stop in Searchlight regardless. Searchlight is 40 miles south, they'll never make it. At 11:15 a.m., Danny spots the sign. It's weathered brown wood with yellow lettering partially obscured by creosote but readable. Desert View Historical Marker, a circumflex 0. 5 my hey, Danny says, pointing. Look at that. Jim glances. The turnoff is coming up fast, a dirt road branching east from Route 95 barely visible. Just 2 tire ruts disappearing into scrub and rock. We're making good time, Jim says. We can spare 10 minutes. It's the kind of decision he's made 100 times on this trip. See the historical marker. Read it aloud. Let Danny take a Polaroid. These are the moments that matter, not just driving past America, but stopping, seeing, documenting. Jim slows, flips the turn signal even though there's no one behind them. The Winnebago turns off Route 95 onto the dirt road. Christmas Tree Pass Road, though there's no sign marking it, just ruts and rocks and the promise of something worth seeing half a mile ahead. The road is rougher than Jim expected. The RV bounces, suspension creaking. Danny braces himself against the dashboard. Maybe we should turn around, Danny says, but Jim's committed now, half a mile. They can see it, photograph it, turn around. No problem. Except the road gets worse. Rocks bigger, ruts deeper, and then Jim sees it ahead, awash. A dry creek bed cutting across the road, maybe 4 feet deep, steep banks on both sides. He should stop, should reverse, should trust the instinct that's screaming at him to turn around. But the wash looks crossable, and he's driven through worse in Michigan winters through mud and snow and ice. Jim downshifts, lines up the approach. The Winnebago descends into the wash. Front tires hit the bottom. Good, but the rear tires can't find purchase on the sandy incline on the far side. The RV rocks, lurches, settles nose down in the wash. Jim gives it gas. The rear wheels spin, throwing sand. He tries reverse. Same result. He tries again and again. The engine coughs, sputters, dies. Jim turns the key. The engine cranks but won't catch. He looks at the fuel gauge. It still reads 3/4 full. But when he turns the key again, there's nothing. Just the clicking of a starter trying to pull fuel that isn't there. The gauge lied. It's been lying since Vegas, stuck on a reading that promised safety while the tank drained with every mile. They've been running on fumes for the last 20 miles and now 7 miles off Route 95, buried in a wash where no one can see them from the road. The truth arrives, they're out of gas. Jim touches his watch. 11:47 a.m. Outside. The temperature is 122 degrees. Danny looks at his father. Dad, Jim's hands are on the wheel. He's staring at the fuel gauge that betrayed him, at the needle that promised 3/4 of a tank, at all his planning and preparation and checklists that couldn't prevent this. We're stuck, Jim says. His voice is very quiet, very calm, the voice of a man who's just realized he did everything right and it didn't matter. Danny rubs his medallion. What do we do? Jim clears his throat 3 times. Looks out at the desert that surrounds them, endless, empty, 122 degrees and climbing. Looks at the road behind them too. 7 miles of ruts that lead back to Route 95, too far to walk in this heat, too rough to see from the highway even if someone drove past. Looks at his son. We wait, Jim says, someone will find us. He says it because he has to say something. He says it because the alternative is unthinkable. But deep down, in the part of him that spent 32 years trusting machinery that sometimes failed, he knows no one's coming. No one knows they are here, and the desert doesn't care how well you planned. The heat at noon is a physical thing, not just hot. 130 degrees feels like weight pressing down, like breathing through wool, like the air itself wants you dead. Jim and Danny sit in the Winnebago with the windows open because closing them would turn the RV into an oven. The metal frame ticks and pings as it expands in the heat. The vinyl seats are too hot to touch with bare skin. Jim's already tried the obvious solutions. Tried to dig out the rear wheels with his hands, sand too hot, burned his palms through his work gloves. Tried rocking the RV forward and back, no momentum without an engine. Tried to restart a dozen times, just the clicking of a dry fuel system. Now he's conserving energy, thinking, how much water do we have? Danny asks. Jim opens the igloo cooler, snap click. The ice has melted completely. Warm water sloshes around 3 Dr. Pepper cans and the remains of yesterday's sandwiches. 1 gallon, Jim says, maybe a little more. He doesn't mention the 2-gallon jug he packed, the one in the upper cabinet above the sink. The one he filled in Vegas and stored away as backup. He'll remember it later, much later, too late. Right now his mind is on the CB radio. Jim moves to the dashboard, switches on the radio. It runs on battery, doesn't need the engine. Channel 19. The trucker channel. Route 95 is a major corridor. Someone will be out there. He picks up the mic, presses the button. Breaker, breaker, this is Wrench Turner. Anyone copy? Static. He tries again. This is Wrench Turner on Christmas Tree Pass Road 7 miles east of Route 95. We're stuck and need assistance. Anyone copy? Nothing but static. Danny watches his father repeat the call 5 times, 10 times, 20. What they don't know, what they can't know, is that the wash they're stuck in sits at the bottom of a shallow canyon. The rock walls aren't tall, maybe 30 feet, but they're enough. The CB signal bounces off stone, refracts, dissipates. 2 miles away, the signal would be clear. Here, it's shadow. Jim tries for an hour. The only voice that comes through the static is his own, bouncing back from canyon walls, mocking him. In Warren, Michigan, Patty Ashford makes pot roast. It's 3:00 p.m. local time, 1:00 p.m. in Nevada, and she started dinner early because cooking keeps her hands busy, keeps her mind from wandering to where Jim and Danny are, whether they're safe. Whether the desert is as hot as the radio says. She's made pot roast every Friday for 30 years. Jim's favorite, carrots and potatoes and onions, meat that falls apart if you cook it slow enough. The smell fills the house, rich and warm and normal. She sets the table for one, twists her wedding ring. The gold is warm from her body heat, smooth from 30 years of wear. The phone hangs on the kitchen wall, silent. Jim will call at 9:00 p.m. He promised every night at 9:00 p.m. and he's never missed a call, not once in 6 days. Patty looks at the clock. 3:17 p.m., 5 hours and 43 minutes until she hears his voice. She can wait. By 2:00 p.m. in the desert, the temperature inside the Winnebago is 118 degrees. Jim rations the water, 2 sips each every hour. The gallon jug sits between them, getting lighter. Danny's medallion is slick with sweat. He rubs it anyway, thumb and forefinger, the gesture automatic grounding. Day 247, 8 months sober. He's not going to die drunk. That's something that matters. Someone will come, Danny says. Jim nods, wants to believe it, but he's thinking about the route. They told Patty they'd be in Flagstaff tonight. Told Stan at the KOA they were heading to the Grand Canyon. No one knows they turned off Route 95. No one knows about the Desert View Marker or Christmas Tree Pass Road. If they don't show up in Flagstaff, Patty will call. Who? The police, and tell them what? That her husband and son are somewhere between Las Vegas and Arizona. That's 300 miles of desert. Jim touches his watch, 2:14 p.m. The crystal is fogging from his sweat. He tries the radio again. Breaker, breaker, this is Wrench Turner. Anyone copy? Static answers. At 4:00 p.m. they hear an engine. Both of them freeze. Listen, it's distant, faint, but unmistakable, a vehicle on Route 95, maybe 2 miles west. They'll see us, Danny says, standing, moving toward the door. Wait. Jim grabs his arm. We're in a wash, below grade, they can't see us from the road. So we go to them. Jim looks at his son, looks at the desert between the wash and the highway, 2.7 miles. In 126-degree heat, with 1 gallon of water between them. We die before we made it halfway, Jim says quietly. The engine sound fades, passes, gone. Danny sinks back into his seat, rubs the medallion. Day 247, staying sober, staying alive for now. At 9:00 p.m. Eastern, 7:00 p.m. in Nevada, Patty Ashford sits by the phone. The pot roast has gone cold on the table. She hasn't touched it. Can't eat, not until Jim calls. She twists her wedding ring around and around, the motion unconscious now, a prayer performed by her hands while her mind stays fixed on the silent phone. 9:02 p.m. Jim's never late, not once, not in 30 years of marriage, not in 6 days of this trip. 9:05 p.m. Patty picks up the receiver, checks for dial tone. It's working. She hangs up. Waits. 9:10 p.m. She tells herself the KOA in Flagstaff is busy. He's waiting for a payphone. There's a line. He'll call in 5 minutes. 9:15 p.m. She tells herself they stopped for dinner, lost track of time. He'll call any minute. 9:30 p.m. The pot roast congeals in its own fat. Patty's hands shake as she twists the ring. She knows, doesn't want to know but knows something's wrong. In the desert, Jim and Danny watch the sun set. They've moved outside, sitting in the shadow of the RV because the interior is uninhabitable, 125 degrees even with the windows open. The sunset is beautiful. Orange and purple and red bleeding across the sky, turning the rocks the color of fire. Danny has his Polaroid camera, takes one last photo, the sun touching the horizon, the sky impossible, the desert indifferent to their deaths. The camera whirs, the photo slides out. Danny doesn't shake it, just watches the image develop slowly in the fading light. The sun, the rocks, the last thing he'll ever photograph. I'm sorry, Jim says. Danny looks at his father. For what? This, getting us stuck. The gauge, I should have known, should have checked the tank manually. Should have, Dad. Danny's voice is firm. You did everything right. The gauge failed. That's not on you. Jim's throat works, 3 short bursts, but no words come. They sit in silence as the sun disappears and the temperature drops to 110, then 105, then 100. At what would be 9:00 p.m. Eastern, 7:00 p.m. local, Jim looks at his watch. Patty's waiting for my call, he says. Danny nods. They both know she'll wait all night, and they can't call, can't tell her they are alive, can't tell her not to worry. The phone in the RV doesn't work without being plugged into a landline, and the CB is still shouting into static, and there's no way to reach across 2,000 miles and tell the woman who's twisting her wedding ring by a silent phone, we're here. We're stuck. We're alive for now. By Saturday morning, day 2, the water is half gone. Jim tries to make it last, 2 sips every 2 hours now, but in 115-degree heat, dehydration comes fast, headaches, dry mouth, dizziness. Danny's lips are cracking. He rubs his medallion compulsively. Day 248, made it through another day sober. Jim tries the radio every hour. This is Wrench Turner. Anyone copy? The canyon walls swallow his words. At noon, Jim makes a decision. He'll walk to the highway, 2.7 miles. He's 52, but he's strong. He survived 32 years in a factory where heat exhaustion was common in summer. He can make it. He tells Danny to stay with the RV. Stay in the shade, conserve water. Danny grabs his father's arm. Don't. Someone has to go. Then we both go. Jim looks at his son, sees the fear there, the knowing. If I don't make it, Jim says, you stay with the RV. Someone will find you eventually. You hear me? You stay put. Danny's hand goes to his medallion. I'm not letting you go alone. Jim squeezes his son's shoulder twice. Their language. He takes half the remaining water, maybe a quart. Leaves the rest for Danny. Puts on his Tiger's cap. Checks his watch. 12:30 p.m. Saturday, June 15, 1991, steps into the sun. The heat hits like a wall. Jim makes it 200 yards before he realizes this is suicide. The sand burns through his boot soles. The air hurts to breathe. His vision blurs. He turns back. Danny helps him into the shade of the RV. Gives him water from the jug, not a sip, a full drink. Because his father's lips are white and his eyes aren't focusing right. We stay together, Danny says. Jim can only nod. In Warren, Patty calls the police Saturday morning. The officer is patient, takes down the information. Winnebago, Michigan plates headed from Las Vegas to Flagstaff should have called last night. Ma'am, sometimes travelers lose track of time, especially in the desert. No cell phones, payphones can be hard to find. My husband has never missed a call. Not once, not ever. Something in her voice makes the officer pause. We'll put out an alert, he says. Check with Arizona Highway Patrol, Nevada too. If they don't show up by tomorrow, we'll escalate. Patty hangs up, twists her ring, doesn't sleep that night. By Sunday, day 3, both of them know they're dying. The water is gone, finished Saturday night. Jim made Danny drink the last of it. Now there's nothing but waiting. Jim's hands shake as he tries the radio one more time. Breaker, breaker, Wrench Turner. His voice is a croak, static answers. Danny lies in the shade under the RV medallion clutched in his fist. Day 249, 3 days stuck, still sober. He laughs that sharp exhale through his nose because it's absurd. He's dying in the desert and all he can think is, I'm still sober, still got my chip. Day 249. Danny. Jim crawls under the RV next to his son. How you doing? Day 249, Danny says, made it. Jim understands, takes his son's hand. They lie there as the sun climbs and the temperature rises and the desert gets on with the business of killing them. At some point, Jim's watch says 11:47 a.m., but he's not sure if that's right. Time feels broken. Danny's breathing changes, becomes shallow, labored. Dad, I'm here. Tell Mom. Tell her I stayed sober. I will. Day 249, tell her that matters. It matters, Jim says. You did good, son. Danny squeezes his father's hand, exhales, doesn't inhale again. Jim holds his son's body in 130-degree heat and makes sounds no father should ever make. His watch ticks forward. 11:47 a.m. Time stops meaning anything after that. Danny Ashford collapses in a Denny's parking lot in Warren, Michigan. Sunday, June 16 at 2:00 p.m. She's been calling every police station between Las Vegas and Flagstaff, every hospital, every tow company. The 6th call, Lake Havasu City PD says they found a Winnebago matching the description. Where? Patty gasps. Lake Havasu, ma'am, Arizona side, but are they alive? Is my husband? Ma'am, it's not them, different plates. We're sorry for the confusion. Patty's legs give out. She's on the hot asphalt. Phone dangling from the payphone cord. People gathering around asking if she's okay. And she can't breathe because for 5 seconds she thought they were found, thought this nightmare was over. False hope is worse than no hope. Karen, her daughter, 25, living 2 blocks away, gets the call from the Denny's manager. Arrives to find her mother on the ground, ring finger bleeding from twisting the band so hard the groove finally broke skin. Mom, we'll find them. Patty doesn't answer, just stares at the blood on her finger and thinks, this is what waiting feels like. This is what the rest of my life will be. In the wash, 7 miles off Christmas Tree Pass Road, Jim Ashford sits with his son's body as the sun sets on day 3. He should bury Danny, should dig a grave, should do something, but there's no strength left, no water, no point. Jim touches his watch. The crystal is cracked from heat stress. The second hand ticks forward. 7:00 p.m. local time. 9:00 p.m. in Michigan. Patty will be waiting by the phone. "I'm sorry," Jim whispers to his wife, to his son, to himself. He closes his eyes. The desert doesn't care. By Monday morning, Jim Ashford joins his son. His hands are still on the steering wheel where he climbed back in during the final delirium, some instinct telling him a driver belongs behind the wheel. His watch stops at 11:47 a.m. Monday, June 17, 1991. The same time, more or less, that Danny died the day before. Father and son, together. The way Jim planned when he invited Danny on this trip, just not the way he imagined. Above them, the sky is blue, predatory, merciless. Indifferent, the search expands Monday. The Nevada Highway Patrol puts out alerts, checks, rest stops, questions truck drivers. Did anyone see a cream and brown Winnebago with Michigan plates? Dozens of tips flood in, none lead anywhere. The desert is 300 miles wide and doesn't give up its dead easily. By Tuesday, Patty's house is full of people. Karen, Jim's brother Bob, friends from the neighborhood, everyone bringing casseroles and condolences and useless hope. Patty sits by the phone. 9:00 p.m. Tuesday. No call. 9:00 p.m. Wednesday. No call. The pot roast from Friday is still on the table, covered in plastic wrap, inedible now, but Patty can't throw it away because throwing it away would mean admitting Jim isn't coming home to eat it. Karen finally disposes of it Thursday morning while her mother sleeps. When Patty wakes and sees it gone, she screams. 3 weeks become a month becomes 2. The official search is called off August 1, 1991. No evidence of foul play. No vehicle found, no bodies recovered. The case file says missing persons presumed deceased. Last known location, Las Vegas to Flagstaff Corridor. Vehicle description, 1985 Winnebago Chieftain cream/brown Michigan plates, presumed but not confirmed, which means Patty Ashford can't bury them, can't mourn properly, can't move forward or let go. She's trapped in the space between hoping and knowing, and it's a space that will hold her for 33 years. Every June 14th, she'll drive to the Denny's parking lot at 9:00 p.m., sit by the payphone, twist her ring, wait, because Jim promised to call, and Patty Ashford keeps vigils the way some people keep faith, unshakable, unreasonable, absolute. The pot roast is gone, but she makes it again the next Friday, and the Friday after that, and every Friday for 33 years. Setting the table for ghosts, waiting for a call that will never come. The first Christmas arrives like a betrayal. December 24, 1991. 6 months and 10 days since Jim and Danny drove away from the house on Bunert Road. Patty Ashford sits on the living room floor surrounded by wrapped presents she bought in May before the trip when the future still existed. She's been staring at them for an hour. The tree blinks its colored lights, red, green, blue, yellow, mindless and cheerful. Karen offered to help put it up, but Patty insisted. Jim always put up the tree the weekend after Thanksgiving. Patty kept the ritual because breaking it would mean admitting they are not coming back. She picks up the first gift. The tag reads, "To Jim, love, Patty." Inside, a road atlas. The 1992 edition, all 50 states. She'd planned to give it to him when he got back from this trip, a joke about planning the next one. Patty unwraps it slowly. The paper tears. Inside the atlas is pristine laminated cover, spiral binding, maps waiting to be highlighted in 3 colors. She opens to Michigan, traces the route from Warren to I-94. Her finger stops where the page ends and the unknown begins. The second gift, to Danny, love, Mom, a leather journal, blank pages. She'd thought he could use it for his sobriety journey, write down his days, his feelings, the things he couldn't say out loud. Day 250 would have been June 18th. He never made it. Patty holds the journal against her chest and makes sounds that aren't quite crying, aren't quite screaming. Somewhere between grief and rage and the terrible understanding that this is her life now, sitting on floors, holding gifts for ghosts, waiting for men who are already dead even if no one's confirmed it yet. Karen finds her there at midnight. "Mom, come on, let's get you to bed." "I wrapped these." Patty says, her voice is very small. "I wrapped them in May." "I know. He was supposed to open it, he was supposed to, she can't finish." Karen helps her mother to her feet, leaves the gifts on the floor, unopened atlas, blank journal, evidence that hope existed once. The tree keeps blinking, red, green, blue, yellow. The house doesn't know how to stop being festive. The years move like this. The first year is survival, barely. Karen moves back in because her mother forgets to eat, forgets to sleep, spends entire nights by the phone waiting for a call that will never come. Mike hires a third private investigator when the second one quits. Bob, Jim's brother, drives the Route 95 corridor 4 times, searching as if family obligation could make the desert give up its dead. The second year is when most people stop asking. When acquaintances see Patty at the grocery store and suddenly remember something in another aisle. When "how are you" becomes a minefield everyone learns to avoid, Patty's answer never changes: waiting. The third year is when the bedroom becomes a museum. Jim's clothes still hang in the closet: chambray work shirts, faded jeans, the tiger's cap on the dresser. The bed is made with military precision every morning. Fresh sheets every Sunday. As if Jim might walk through the door and need a clean place to sleep. Karen tries once to suggest packing some things away. Patty's look could freeze blood, the clothes stay. By the fifth year, the private investigator's checks bounce. Mike's dumped $47,000 into the search, aerial surveys, ground teams, rewards, tips that lead nowhere. His marriage is crumbling. His wife doesn't understand why he's throwing money at ghosts. They're not ghosts. Mike says they're my father and brother, but the distinction doesn't matter to a bank account or a marriage license. By the seventh year, Emma is 16, the age Danny was when Mike last remembers him being truly happy, before the drinking, before the chaos. She asks her grandmother, "What was Uncle Danny like?" Patty pulls out the box, the one she keeps in the fireproof safe. Inside, Danny's AA medallion replica. The real one is with his body, wherever that is. His Polaroids from the trip, 23 of them recovered from his apartment when they cleaned it out. His journal from rehab. He was gentle, Patty says. He laughed through his nose instead of out loud. He took pictures of weird things. He stayed sober for 249 days. Emma touches the medallion. That's a long time. It is. Do you think he was sober when he died? Patty's hand goes to her ring, twists. The groove in the gold is visible now, a physical record of 33 years of waiting, of anxiety, of fingers that can't stay still. "I know he was," Patty says. She doesn't know how she knows, but she does. Day 249. Her son died sober. It's the only comfort that exists in this wasteland. Every June 14th, Patty drives to the Denny's parking lot. Every year, same time, 9:00 p.m. She parks in the same spot, third row, near the payphone, and she sits in her car with the windows down and the engine off, and she waits. People notice. By the 10th anniversary, the Denny's staff knows. They leave her alone. Don't ask if she needs anything. Just let the old woman sit in her Buick, twisting her wedding ring, staring at a payphone that will never ring. Year 11, it rains. Patty sits in the parking lot anyway. Rain on the windshield. 9:00 p.m. comes and goes. Year 15, Karen sits with her, doesn't speak, just holds her mother's hand while they wait for nothing. Year 20, Sophie, Karen's daughter, 14 now, asks why grandma does this. "Because she promised to wait," Karen says, "and your grandfather promised to call. But he's dead." Karen looks at her daughter. "We don't know that." "Yes, we do." And Sophie's right, everyone knows, but knowing and confirming are different countries, and Patty Ashford lives in the space between them. Year 25, Patty is 77 years old. Arthritis makes the ring twisting painful, but she does it anyway. Muscle memory, prayer, penance. The parking lot vigil lasts from 9:00 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Then she drives home, makes pot roast the next day, sets the table for 3, eats alone, covers the extra plates with plastic wrap and puts them in the refrigerator where they'll stay for a week before she finally throws them out and starts again. Mike stops coming to family dinners in year 16. The guilt has metastasized into something clinical. His therapist calls it survivor's guilt complicated by unresolved grief. Mike calls it the thing that wakes me up at 3 a.m. He was supposed to go on that trip. Jim invited him first, father and sons. All 3 of them 3 weeks on the road, but Mike had a work presentation, had to decline, suggested Danny instead. If Mike had gone, maybe he would have checked the fuel gauge manually. Maybe he would have noticed the Desert View sign was a dirt road and suggested they skip it. Maybe he would have been the one to die and Danny would have lived. The maybes are infinite, they eat him alive. By year 20, Mike sits in his apartment, divorced now, living alone, and reads Tiger's scores out loud to the air. Detroit 6, Cleveland 3, Trammell went 2 for 4. No one answers, he does it anyway. His father loved baseball, loved the Tigers, Loved reading the Free Press sports section over morning coffee. Mike reads the scores like a rosary. Like if he performs the ritual faithfully enough, his father might hear him across whatever distance separates the living from the dead. Minnesota 8, Detroit 2, tough loss. The apartment is silent. Mike pours another drink. Karen calls her mother every evening at 7:00 p.m. every evening for 33 years. It starts as a safety check, making sure Patty's eating, sleeping still tethered to reality, but it becomes ritual, becomes the shape of their relationship. 7:00 p.m. the phone rings. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey. How was your day? And Patty tells her same stories, mostly grocery shopping. The lawn. The neighbor's dog, small things, normal things, the architecture of a life that looks functional from the outside but is actually just grief dressed up as routine. Some nights Patty talks about Jim. He would have loved this weather, perfect for yard work. Some nights about Danny. I saw a young man with long hair today. For a second I thought, she doesn't finish. Karen listens, has been listening for 33 years. I know, Mom. By year 30. Karen's daughter Sophie is in grad school studying counseling psychology. Her thesis focuses on ambiguous loss, grief without closure, waiting without end. She interviews her grandmother. When do you think you'll stop waiting? Sophie asks. Patty looks at her granddaughter. The ring twists. When he calls, Patty says. Sophie writes this down. Later, her advisor will say it's one of the most heartbreaking case studies she's ever read. The house on Bunert Road ages badly. Paint peels, shutters sag. The lawn goes from manicured to barely maintained. Karen hires a service in year 18 because her mother can't manage it anymore. Inside, time has stopped. Jim's toothbrush still sits in the bathroom holder. His coffee mug still hangs on its hook. His retirement watch, the one he bought to replace the one he wore on the trip, sits in a drawer unworn. The trip log he kept from previous journeys sits on the bookshelf. Patty opens it sometimes. Reads his entries. June 3, 1987, Mackinac Island, 247 miles. Danny threw up on the bridge twice. Beautiful day otherwise. July 12, 1989, Niagara Falls, 289 miles. Patty loved it, says we should come back for our 30th anniversary. They never made it to the 30th anniversary trip. Jim disappeared 3 weeks before they would have celebrated 30 years. Patty reads these entries and touches the pages where his pen made contact. Tap, tap, pause, tap, tap. She can almost hear the rhythm. Almost. By year 32, Patty is 84 years old. Her doctor says her heart is failing, not dramatically, just slowly, the way hearts do when they've carried too much grief for too long. Karen asks, do you have any regrets? Patty thinks about this, twists her ring. The groove is so deep now it's worn through the gold's outer layer. You can see the different color metal underneath. I should have told him not to go, Patty says. That morning I had a feeling I should have said something. You couldn't have known. I knew, I just didn't listen. This is what 33 years does, turns intuition into evidence, turns silence into sin. June 14, 2023. Patty is 85 years old. She drives to the Denny's parking lot for the 32nd time. Karen's with her has been for the last 10 vigils. Sophie's there too, 3 generations of women waiting for a phone call from the dead. 9:00 p.m. The payphone doesn't ring, it never rings. Patty sits in her Buick, hands folded in her lap, the wedding ring so worn it's paper thin. I'm tired, she says. Karen takes her mother's hand. I know. I've been waiting for 33 years. I know, Mom. Do you think he knows I waited? Sophie from the back seat. Her voice soft, he knows. Patty closes her eyes. The parking lot is mostly empty. The Denny's sign blinks, half the letters burned out. The payphone is an anachronism, kept functional only because removing it would require paperwork no one wants to file. At 9:30 p.m. they drive home. Patty makes pot roast the next day, sets the table for 3, eats alone, but something's different this year. Patty feels it in her chest, the heart that's failing, the time that's running out. I'm 85, she tells Karen. If they're going to find them, it needs to be soon. Mom, I mean it. I need to bury him. I need to know. Karen nods, doesn't argue, because after 33 years, even the most stubborn hope understands when it's time to grieve. What Patty doesn't know, what she can't know, is that on March 19, 2024, a graduate student at Arizona State University will be reviewing LiDAR data from a routine geological survey. And he'll see something, an anomaly, a shape that doesn't belong. 2. 7 miles off Christmas Tree Pass Road, buried under 33 years of sediment, a vehicle-sized object sits in a wash. The student will flag it, send it to his advisor, who will send it to the National Park Service, who will contact the Nevada Highway Patrol, who will organize an excavation. And on March 22, 2024, they'll unearth a 1985 Winnebago Chieftain, cream and brown stripes, Michigan plates, 2 skeletons inside, one with hands still on the steering wheel, one with an 8-month sobriety medallion hanging from a cervical vertebra, and a silver watch on the dashboard, stopped at 11:47 a.m. But that's 9 months away. Right now. In June 2023, Patty Ashford sits in her house on Bunert Road and twists her wedding ring and waits. The way she's waited for 33 years. The way she'll wait for 9 more months until the desert finally gives them back. March 19, 2024, Tuesday morning, the desert near Christmas Tree Pass. Dr. Sarah Keating stands in the shade of the BLM survey van, laptop balanced on her forearm, squinting at LiDAR data that makes no sense. She's a geologist, has been running these surveys for 8 years, mapping erosion patterns, tracking watershed changes, documenting how the desert shifts and settles over time. The LiDAR light detection and ranging sends laser pulses from a low-flying aircraft, measures how long they take to bounce back, creates a 3-dimensional map of the ground below. Usually, the data shows exactly what you'd expect: rock formations, washes, vegetation patterns, the occasional abandoned mine shaft. This shows something else. Marcus, look at this, Sarah says. Marcus Chen, LiDAR operator, 31, ASU grad student working on his doctorate in geological remote sensing, leans over her shoulder. The screen displays a false color elevation map. Most of it is the expected topography, reds and oranges for high ground, blues and greens for washes and depressions. But there too, 7 miles east of Route 95, sitting in a shallow wash, a geometric void, not geological, too regular, too artificial. That's not a rock, Marcus says. No, Sarah agrees, rocks don't have right angles. She zooms in. The anomaly is roughly 27 feet long, 8 feet wide, oriented northeast-southwest. Buried under approximately 4 to 6 feet of sediment, the accumulation of 33 years of flash floods depositing sand and silt over whatever this is. Could be an old vehicle, Marcus suggests. Abandoned truck, maybe. Sarah pulls up the historical data. This wash flooded badly in 1995, again in 2003, 2011, and 2019. Each flood would have deposited layers of sediment. Whatever's down there has been buried incrementally year by year until the desert swallowed it completely. We should flag it, Sarah says. Send it to the Park Service. Could be archaeological. Marcus nods, takes coordinates 35, 7,482 degrees N 114, 8,891 degrees W. He doesn't know, they don't know, that these coordinates are about to end 33 years of waiting. That 2 people died here. That a woman in Michigan has been twisting her wedding ring thin, waiting for exactly this moment. Marcus emails the coordinates to the National Park Service at 10:23 a.m. The subject line reads, "Possible buried vehicle, Christmas Tree Pass area." By 2:00 p.m., it's been forwarded to the Nevada Highway Patrol. By 4:00 p.m., it's on Detective Mark Chen's desk. Detective Mark Chen is 47 years old, NSP cold case unit based in Las Vegas. He's been working cold cases for 11 years. Has seen everything: bodies buried in desert, vehicles driven into lakes, people who vanished and stayed vanished. The Ashford case has been in his filing cabinet since 2019, when he inherited the unit's unsolved missing persons from the previous detective who retired. He's read the file a dozen times. Father and son, 1985 Winnebago, Michigan plates JDA 428, disappeared June 1991 somewhere between Las Vegas and Flagstaff. Extensive searches found nothing. No vehicle, no bodies, no evidence. Presumed dead, file closed but never solved. Now Chen stares at the LiDAR coordinates and pulls up the Ashford file. Last known route, Route 95 South. LiDAR anomaly location. 7 miles east of Route 95 between Las Vegas and Searchlight. He opens Google Earth, zooms to the coordinates. It's wilderness, no roads, no structures, just desert and wash and emptiness. But there's a dirt road, barely visible, branching east from Route 95. Christmas Tree Pass Road. Chen's pulse quickens. He calls the BLM office. The vehicle you found, you got dimensions. Sarah Keating reads from her notes. Approximately 27 feet by 8 feet, consistent with a recreational vehicle or large truck. Buried how deep? 4 to 6 feet, multiple sediment layers. It's been there a while. Chen closes his eyes, does the math. 1991 to 2024, 33 years, 4 major floods in that period, each depositing 1-2 feet of sand and silt. Timeline matches. Location matches. Dimensions match. I need an excavation team, Chen says, today if possible. March 20, 2024, Wednesday, 7:00 a.m. The excavation team arrives at the wash, 2 BLM rangers, a forensic anthropologist from UNLV, 3 NSP officers, and Detective Chen. The morning air is cool, mid-60s, but it'll be 95 by noon. They need to work fast. Sarah Keating has marked the site with orange flags. The wash is maybe 50 feet wide, cut through sandstone and caliche, bone dry now but clearly flood-prone during monsoon season. Start here, she says, pointing to the geometric void on her screen. 4 feet down, give or take. The team uses a backhoe for the first 3 feet carefully, so carefully then switches to hand tools, shovels, brushes. The sediment is layered like a cake, tan sand from 2019, darker silt from 2011, reddish sand from 2003. At 9:47 a.m., a shovel hits metal, everyone stops. The forensic anthropologist Dr. Lisa Park, 52, has excavated dozens of desert graves, kneels in the trench, brushes sand away from what looks like a bumper, chrome, corroded, but unmistakably a vehicle bumper. Keep going, she says quietly. By 11:00 a.m., they've uncovered the front end. It's a Winnebago, cream and brown stripes. Though the colors are faded, sun-bleached, sand-scoured. The windshield is intact but opaque with sediment. The grille is partially crushed, consistent with a nose-down landing in a wash. At 11:23 a.m., they uncover the license plate. Tan metal, Michigan, JDA 428. Detective Chen takes a photo, sends it to the database. The response comes back in 47 seconds, 1985 Winnebago Chieftain. Registered owner, James Robert Ashford Warren My, missing persons case #91-1147. Status, open/cold. Chen calls his supervisor. We found them, he says. His voice is very quiet, very certain. The excavation takes 6 hours. They can't rush, can't risk damaging evidence or remains. Every layer of sediment is photographed, documented, removed with care. By 2:00 p.m., the entire vehicle is exposed. It sits nose down in the wash, rear wheels elevated, exactly as it settled 33 years ago when Jim tried one last time to drive out and the fuel finally ran dry. Dr. Park approaches the driver's side door. It's unlocked. The handle is stiff with corrosion but functional. She opens it. The smell hits first, not decomposition, that's long gone, reduced to dust by heat and time. This is different. Stale air, old plastic, desert-baked metal, and underneath, faintly, old spice and something else, something human that the desert couldn't completely erase. The interior is remarkably preserved. The dry heat mummified rather than decayed. Upholstery faded but intact, dashboard cracked but whole, and behind the wheel, a skeleton still buckled in the driver's seat. Both hands articulated on the steering wheel, positioned at 10 and 2, exactly where a driver's hands belong. Dr. Park documents everything before touching anything. Photos from every angle, measurements, notes. The skeleton is male, approximately 6 feet tall, late middle age based on bone density and wear patterns. Clothing mostly deteriorated, fragments of denim, cotton, leather. A belt buckle, boot leather. On the left wrist, a watch, silver, the band corroded green, the crystal cracked. Dr. Park carefully removes it, turns it over. The back is engraved, 32 years of service, General Motors. She checks the face. The hands are stopped at 11:47. In the passenger seat, a second skeleton, smaller, younger, late 20s based on dental wear and bone fusion, slumped against the seatbelt, head tilted toward the driver. Around the cervical vertebra, a silver chain, hanging from it, a medallion. Dr. Park photographs it in place, then carefully removes it. The tarnish wipes away to reveal engraving, 8 months to thine own self be true and sobriety chip. She bags it, bags the watch, continues the documentation. On the dashboard, a leather-bound book, the trip log, Jim's handwriting visible through 33 years of dust. Dr. Park opens it carefully. The last entry, dated June 14, 1991, Las Vegas NV to Grand Canyon AZ planned. Route US 95S to I-40E EST, 280 miles. Weather clear hot desert view marker, turn R, the sentence ends mid-word, as if Jim started to write around and go back and never finished. The pen is still tucked in the spine. Dr. Park finds other objects, a Polaroid camera with film still inside, Danny's worn paperback on the road, pages brittle and faded. The red igloo cooler in the storage bay, empty except for rust stains where cans once sat. And in the upper cabinet above the sink, forgotten, a gallon jug, still sealed, full of water. Dr. Park stares at it, a gallon of water right there the whole time. Jim never found it, was so focused on the cooler, on rationing what they had, that he never checked the cabinet. She doesn't open the jug, just photographs it, bags it as evidence. Later, this will haunt everyone who sees it. The water that could have bought them days. Maybe enough days for someone to find them. But that's later. Right now, Dr. Park calls Detective Chen over. We're ready to transport, she says. The bodies, what remains of James and Daniel Ashford, are carefully removed from the vehicle, placed in body bags, loaded into the coroner's van, together like they died, together like they'll be buried. The Winnebago stays in the wash for now, too large to move until proper equipment arrives tomorrow. But the evidence comes with Chen. Watch, medallion, trip log, camera, cooler, water jug. The pieces of 2 lives that ended in 130-degree heat because a fuel gauge lied and a dirt road looked passable, and the desert doesn't forgive mistakes no matter how well you planned. At 5:47 p.m., Detective Chen drives back to Las Vegas with evidence bags in his trunk and a notification to make that he's been dreading for 6 hours. There's a woman in Michigan who's been waiting 33 years for this call. Chen has to tell her, we found them, they are dead. They've been dead since June 17, 1991, and now finally she can bury them. March 21, 2024, Thursday, 6:15 p.m. Michigan time. Karen Ashford is making dinner when her phone rings. She doesn't recognize the number, almost lets it go to voicemail, but something makes her answer. Hello. Is this Karen Ashford, daughter of James Ashford? Her heart stops. Yes, this is Detective Mark Chen, Nevada State Police. I'm calling about your father. Karen sits down, her legs won't hold her. You found him, it's not a question. Yes, ma'am, we found the vehicle yesterday. Your father and brother were inside. Karen closes her eyes. Are they? I'm very sorry. They've been deceased for some time. Forensic evidence indicates they died in June 1991, shortly after they went missing. 33 years. They've been dead for 33 years. Karen knew, everyone knew, but knowing and confirming are different countries. Where? She asks. A wash about 7 miles east of Route 95 near the Nevada-Arizona border. They turned off the highway onto a dirt road, Christmas Tree Pass Road, got stuck, ran out of fuel. How did you find them? LiDAR survey, new technology. The vehicle was buried under 6 feet of sediment from flash floods. You couldn't see it from the road, from the air, from anywhere unless you knew exactly where to look. Karen is crying now, silent tears. My mother's been waiting. For 33 years she's been waiting. I know, Chen says. The file mentioned her vigils. Can I tell her, or do you need to? You can tell her. I'll need to speak with her as well, but you tell her first. Karen hangs up, drives to the house on Bunert Road. Her mother is in the kitchen making pot roast. It's Thursday, not Friday, but Patty makes pot roast whenever she needs comfort, whenever the waiting gets too heavy. Mom, Karen says. Patty turns, sees her daughter's face, knows. Her hand goes to the ring, twists. They found him, Karen says. Patty doesn't ask if he's alive, doesn't ask where or how. Just asks the only question that matters. Can I bury him? Yes, Patty's legs give out. Karen catches her, has caught her mother so many times over 33 years, and they sink to the kitchen floor together. Patty sobs, not the broken sounds from Christmas 1991, not the desperate sounds from the Lake Havasu, false hope. These are different. These are grief finally arriving after 33 years of waiting. Relief and agony mixed together. They are dead. But she can bury them. When Patty can speak again, she says, "He always finds his way home. I knew he would." Karen holds her mother tighter. Outside, the sun sets on March 21, 2024. Inside, on the kitchen counter, pot roast cools, 2 plates set, never eaten, but tomorrow Patty will pack them away because the waiting is over. March 22, 2024, Friday, 2:00 p.m. Detective Chen arrives at the house on Bunert Road with a cardboard box marked evidence. Patty Ashford meets him at the door. She's 85 years old, frail in a way she wasn't last year, but her spine is straight and her eyes are clear. "Mrs. Ashford," Chen says, "I'm Detective Chen. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you for finding them. Can I come in?" Patty leads him to the living room. The same room where she unwrapped Christmas presents in 1991. The same room where the trip log from previous journeys still sits on the bookshelf. Chen sets the box on the coffee table. "These are personal effects recovered from the vehicle," he says. "I wanted to return them personally." He opens the box. First, the watch, silver Seiko with the GM logo, band corroded but intact, crystal cracked. Hand stopped at 11:47 a.m. Patty takes it with shaking hands. The weight is familiar, the shape, the small dent in the case from when Jim dropped it in the factory parking lot in 1983. She winds it gently. The mechanism is stiff but functional. Tick, tick, tick. The second hand begins to move. Patty gasps. It's running after 33 years, after death and heat and burial and excavation. The watch is running. She holds it to her ear, listens to time moving forward. It works. As she whispers, "The jeweler cleaned it," Chen says, "said it was built to last, just needed maintenance." Patty puts the watch on her wrist. The band is too large. Jim's wrist was bigger than hers, but she doesn't care. She can feel it ticking against her pulse. Time moving forward. Finally. Second, the medallion, silver, 8 months. "To thine own self be true." Patty holds it the way Danny used to, between thumb and forefinger, like a rosary, like prayer. "He stayed sober." She says, "I knew he did." The forensic report confirms no alcohol or drugs in his system, Chen says. "He died the way he lived for those final 8 months. Sober." Patty nods, clutches the medallion. Day 249. Her boy made it to day 249. Third, the trip log, leather-bound, Jim's handwriting. Patty opens it carefully, reads the entries, the 2-tap rhythm visible in how the ink pressed harder at the start of each line. Tap, tap, pause, tap, tap. She can hear it. Can see him sitting in the RV at some campground, recording the day's mileage, the weather, the notable sights. Then the last entry, desert view marker, turn R, the sentence that ends mid-word. "He was trying to write around," Patty says, "trying to tell himself to turn around and go back to the highway." "We think so," Chen agrees, "but he didn't." "No, ma'am." Patty closes the log, presses it against her chest. "Can I have the other things? The camera, the book, the—" "Everything will be released once the investigation is complete, but these 3 items, the watch, medallion, and log, I wanted you to have immediately." Patty nods. Chen explains the rest. "The bodies are at the coroner's office in Las Vegas. Dental records, confirmed identification, death certificates will be issued. She can arrange for transport to Michigan whenever she's ready. Funeral, burial, closure." After 33 years. Closure, but it doesn't feel like closure. It feels like the beginning of a different kind of waiting, the waiting of grief, which is somehow more bearable than the waiting of not knowing. Chen stands to leave. "Mrs. Ashford, can I ask you something?" "Yes, the parking lot vigils, every June 14th. How did you keep doing that for 33 years? Patty looks at him, touches the watch on her wrist. Tick, tick, tick. "I promised to wait," she says. "Jim promised to call. We both kept our promises. Just took him 33 years to get to a phone." Chen's throat works. He nods, leaves quickly before his professional composure cracks. After he's gone, Patty sits alone with the 3 objects. Watch, medallion, trip log, the pieces of 2 lives she's been waiting to mourn. She winds the watch again, listens to it tick. That night, she sleeps with it on. The ticking comforts her in a way nothing has for 33 years. Time moving forward, her husband's watch. Running, proof that even after death, even after burial, even after 33 years of silence, something can start again. April 20, 2024, Saturday, Warren, Michigan. The rain starts at dawn, not the violent summer storms that hammer the Midwest with thunder and wind, but gentle April rain, steady, soft, the kind that falls like forgiveness. It turns the cemetery grass deeper green, makes the maples glisten, fills the air with petrichor, that smell of rain on soil that Patty always loved, that Jim said smelled like home after too many days on desert roads. The funeral is at 11:00 a.m. Two cherry wood caskets sit side by side under a green canopy. The rain drums soft percussion on the fabric. Mourners gather with umbrellas, black and navy, and one bright yellow that belongs to Sophie, who remembers her grandmother saying, "Life's too short for dark colors." Patty Ashford sits in the front row. She's 85, thinner than she was in March, her heart failing faster now that the waiting's done, as if her body held on through sheer will and now, permission granted, is letting go. She wears Jim's watch on her left wrist. It ticks against her pulse, tick, 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 time moving forward, always forward, the way Jim would have wanted. Karen sits beside her mother, holding her hand. Mike is on Patty's other side, her eldest son, 61 now, gray-haired and haunted but present. He hasn't missed a family gathering since the discovery. Hasn't needed the bourbon to sleep. Hasn't read baseball scores to empty air, because now there's someone to read them to. Last night at the wake, Mike stood at his father's casket and recited the Tigers' season stats. April 19, 2024, Detroit 7, Chicago 5. "Good win, Dad," he said. It was the first time in 16 years he'd said it without crying. The grandchildren fill the rows behind them. Emma, 30 now, investigative journalist for the Detroit Free Press, currently writing a long-form piece about missing persons in national parks and the families who never stop searching. Sophie, 26, licensed therapist specializing in ambiguous loss, her grandmother's 33-year vigil the foundation of her career, and others. Friends, neighbors, people from the GM plant who worked with Jim, people from Danny's AA group who knew him during those 8 months of sobriety. Stan Kowalski is here, flown in from Las Vegas, 78 years old, former camp host at the KOA. He remembers the Winnebago in Space 47B. Remembers waving goodbye, remembers thinking good for them. He stands at the back of the gathering, rain on his face, and wonders what would have happened if he'd talked to them that morning, asked about their route, mentioned that Christmas tree pass was rough road, not worth the detour. But he didn't, and wondering changes nothing. The service begins. Father Michael, who buried Patty's parents in 1998, who's known this family for 40 years, speaks first. His voice is gentle, practiced at grief. "We gather today to lay to rest James Robert Ashford and his son, Daniel Patrick Ashford, father and son, husband and brother, friends and guides to everyone who knew them. They left us 33 years ago on a journey they didn't complete, but today they come home. Today we give them the burial they've been waiting for. And today we remember that love, the love Patty carried for 33 years, the love this family built around 2 empty chairs at every holiday table. Love doesn't end when bodies fail. It endures. It waits. And finally, it brings us here to rain, to earth, to rest." He steps back. Karen approaches the podium. She's prepared a eulogy. Spent 2 weeks writing it, crossing out words, trying to capture her father in paragraphs, her brother in sentences. But standing here, rain falling soft around her, the words feel insufficient. She speaks anyway. "My father believed in maps," Karen begins. "Real ones, paper ones. The kind you could fold in precise thirds and highlight in 3 colors, yellow for the route you planned, blue for backup, pink for places worth stopping. He believed if you prepared enough, planned enough, checked everything twice, you could control the outcome." She pauses, touches the podium to steady herself. "He was wrong, but he wasn't wrong about what mattered. He died trying to save his son. He died with his hands on the wheel, doing what he'd done for 32 years, driving, navigating, trying to bring everyone home safe. He died being a father." Her voice cracks. "And Danny, my little brother, who struggled so hard, who fought addictions most of us can't imagine, who stayed sober for 249 days and died with that sobriety medallion around his neck. Danny died being the man he wanted to be. Clean, present, his father's son." She looks at the caskets. "Dad always said he wanted to visit all 50 state capitals. He wanted to show Danny the whole country, teach him everything about vehicle maintenance, write a real American road guide. He got one trip, one road, one desert road that ended in a wash too, 7 miles from nowhere." Karen's hands grip the podium. "But he expanded the map, not geographically, Emotionally, he taught us that preparation doesn't prevent tragedy but love survives it. That waiting is its own kind of journey. That some vigils last 33 years and some watches tick forever and some mothers never ever stop looking. She steps back, sits, Mike stands next. He has no prepared remarks, just 3 words he's needed to say for 33 years. "I'm sorry," he says, his voice barely audible over the rain. "I was supposed to go on that trip. Dad invited me first, but I had a presentation. I chose work, and Danny went instead." He looks at Danny's casket. "I've spent 33 years wishing I'd been there, wishing I'd died instead, wishing I could trade places." Tears stream down his face, mixing with rain. "But I can't, so instead I'll say this, Danny, you were my little brother. You annoyed me when we were kids, you scared me when you were using, and you made me proud when you got sober. You died sober. You died being better than you'd ever been. You died my brother." He sits heavily. The rain continues, soft, forgiving. Father Michael speaks the final prayers, commits them to earth, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. The caskets are lowered simultaneously, side by side, just as they sat in the Winnebago, just as they died, just as they'll spend eternity. The headstone is simple, gray granite. Both names carved: James Robert Ashford, March 8, 1939, June 17, 1991, Daniel Patrick Ashford, November 19, 1962, June 16, 1991, together on the road, together at rest. Patty stands at the edge of the graves. Karen holds one arm, Mike the other. The rain falls on all of them, on caskets, on mourners, on earth receiving its dead. Patty whispers something only the rain hears. Then she reaches into her pocket, pulls out Danny's AA medallion, the real one returned by the coroner last week. She kisses it, drops it onto Danny's casket. Clink, silver on cherry wood. 8 months, 249 days, proof that her son died being who he wanted to be. Then she touches Jim's watch on her wrist, feels it ticking. She doesn't drop it, can't, needs it. But she makes a promise: "I'll wear it until I join you, and then we'll be buried together, all 3 of us." The ceremony ends. People drift away slowly, reluctant to leave, as if leaving means accepting this is finished. But Patty stays. Stands in the rain for 20 minutes watching the graves, the water pooling in the fresh-turned earth, the flowers already wilting under the downpour. "I waited," she says to the ground. "I waited like I promised, and you came home. Just took 33 years. Karen gently pulls her mother away. They drive home in silence, windshield wipers beating rhythm, rain turning the world soft and gray and forgiving. That night, Patty sleeps for 14 hours straight. The first real sleep in 33 years. The months after the funeral are strange. Patty's body, released from its vigil, begins shutting down in earnest. The doctor says her heart is simply worn out. 33 years of stress, of cortisol, of adrenaline spiking every time the phone rang. "How long?" Karen asks. "Weeks, maybe months, it's hard to say." Patty spends the summer in her house on Bunert Road. She doesn't make pot roast anymore. Doesn't set extra plates. Doesn't wait by the phone at 9:00 p.m. Instead, she sits in the living room with photo albums spread across her lap, Jim's watch ticking on her wrist, and she tells stories to anyone who will listen. Emma visits twice a week with her recorder. "Tell me about the first time you met Dad." And Patty does, story after story. The wedding in 1961, the factory years, raising 3 kids, the fishing trips to Mackinac. Danny's struggles, the morning they left for the Grand Canyon. Emma records everything. These stories will become the backbone of her article, not just about Jim and Danny, but about Patty, about what waiting costs, about love that doesn't end when hope does. Sophie visits too, brings her laptop, shows her grandmother the foundation she's starting, the Ashford Project, dedicated to supporting families of missing persons. Counseling services, search assistance, advocacy for better technology in remote areas. "We're naming it after them," Sophie says. "After Papa and Uncle Danny, so their deaths mean something." Patty touches the watch. "They already meant something," she says, "but yes, do that, help other people, that's good." June 14, 2024 arrives, the 33rd anniversary. Except this time there's no vigil. Instead, Karen drives her mother to the cemetery. They stand at the graves, flowers fresh. Grass growing in, the earth settled. Patty doesn't cry, just stands there twisting her ring, listening to the watch tick. "I don't have to wait anymore," she says. "That's strange." You can rest now, Mom. I will soon. They drive home. Patty makes dinner, not pot roast, just soup, and eats at the kitchen table. One plate, one bowl, one person. The house feels different without the waiting. Emptier but somehow lighter that night. Patty goes into the bedroom, the one she's kept like a museum for 33 years, and she opens Jim's closet. The chambray shirts, the jeans, the tiger's cap, she touches them. Then for the first time in 33 years, she packs them away, not throwing them out, just putting them to rest. She keeps the cap, wears it to bed, sleeps with Jim's watch ticking against her pulse. Dreams of desert roads and sunsets and a man who kept his promises, even when it took 33 years to keep them. September 17, 2024, Tuesday, 3:47 a.m. Patty Ashford dies in her sleep. Karen finds her that morning when the 7:00 p.m. call from the previous evening went unanswered. She used her key, walked into the bedroom. Her mother looked peaceful, wearing the tiger's cap. Jim's watch on her wrist still ticking. Wedding ring worn so thin it's almost transparent. On the nightstand, a note. Asterisk Karen, bury me with them, same cemetery. I want to be close. The watch should be buried with me. It's still running. Let it run in the dark. Let it keep time even when no one's listening. I love you. I love Mike. I love the grandchildren. Tell them I waited as long as I could. But it's time to stop waiting. It's time to rest. Mom asterisk Karen holds the note for a long time. Then she calls Mike, then Sophie, then Emma. Then the funeral home. September 21, 2024. The second funeral in 5 months, smaller this time, family and close friends. The same cemetery, the same rain, softer now, September rain instead of April, cooler, carrying the smell of early autumn. Patty's casket is placed between Jim and Danny's graves, not directly on top, that would disturb them, but close, within reach. The three of them forming a triangle. Father Michael speaks again. Shorter this time, less formal. Patty Ashford waited 33 years for her husband to come home. She kept vigil when others gave up. She twisted her wedding ring until it wore through. She made pot roast every Friday for men who couldn't eat it. And when they finally came home, when the desert gave them back, she buried them with love, wore her husband's watch, and allowed herself to rest. He pauses. Today, we reunite them. Not in the way she wanted, not with Jim walking through the door alive, not with Danny celebrating 34 years of sobriety, but reunited nonetheless, together, finally. The casket is lowered. Karen approaches, drops a single item onto the casket before it's covered, a laminated map. The one Jim used on the trip, yellow highlights, blue alternates, pink points of interest. And on the back, Karen has written, "You've reached your destination. Rest now." The earth receives Patty Ashford the same way it received her husband and son. Gently, with rain, with love. Jim's watch ticks in the darkness of her casket. Tick, 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 moving forward, always forward, even in death. Epilogue, Legacy, November 2024. The Nevada State Museum in Las Vegas opens a new exhibit, Lost in the Desert, the Ashford Case and the Future of Search Technology. The centerpiece, the 1985 Winnebago Chieftain, restored, cleaned, but left otherwise intact. The cracked windshield, the corroded chrome, the faded cream and brown stripes. Inside, carefully preserved behind plexiglass, the trip log open to the final entry, the Polaroid camera, Danny's copy of On the Road, the red igloo cooler, and a placard explaining this vehicle was discovered in March 2024, buried under 6 feet of sediment in a remote wash 7 miles from Route 95. Inside were the remains of James Ashford, 52, and Daniel Ashford, 28, missing since June 1991. They died from dehydration after running out of fuel. A full gallon of water was later found in an upper cabinet, overlooked in their final hours. This tragedy illustrates the deadly combination of faulty equipment, malfunctioning fuel gauge, terrain misjudgment, unpaved roads, and extreme heat-limited technology. 1991 had no GPS, no cell phones, no emergency beacons. Modern LiDAR technology, unavailable in 1991, made this discovery possible 33 years later. The Ashford family has donated this vehicle to ensure others learn from their loss. Visitors walk through slowly, quietly. Children ask parents, "Could this happen to us?" The parents, looking at their smartphones with GPS and emergency features, say, "Not anymore, we have better tools now." But the exhibit's real message is simpler: preparation doesn't guarantee safety, love survives loss, and some stories take 33 years to finish. December 2024, Christmas Tree Pass Road, Nevada, mile marker 27, Karen Ashford. Mike Ashford and Sophie stand beside a newly installed sign. It's official, Bureau of Land Management approved, Nevada Highway Patrol endorsed, funded by the Ashford family. The sign is large, reflective, impossible to miss. Warning: unpaved road 4WD only, no services for 50+ miles, extreme heat danger. May-September, carry water, notify others of route in memory of James and Daniel Ashford, June 1991. Below the text, a QR code. Scan it and you're taken to a website, the Ashford Project, with resources for desert travel safety, emergency contacts, and real-time weather alerts. Karen hammers the post into the ground. Mike steadies it. Sophie takes photos for the foundation's newsletter. When it's secure, they step back. The desert stretches around them, endless, indifferent, beautiful in its cruelty. But now anyone who turns onto this road will see the sign, will be warned, will think twice. Maybe they'll turn around, maybe they won't, but they'll know. They'll be prepared in a way Jim and Danny couldn't be, and maybe, just maybe, that will save someone. Karen touches the sign. The metal is hot under the December sun. "Rest easy, Dad," she whispers. "Your map is complete." They drive back to the highway. Behind them the sign stands, sentinel. A warning, a memorial, a promise. The desert keeps its dead, but now it also keeps their story. Final image: Warren, Michigan, Resurrection Cemetery, April 2025. Spring arrives gentle, cherry blossoms fall like snow. Grass grows thick over 3 graves arranged in a triangle. A visitor approaches. Young man, maybe 19, wearing a black flag t-shirt and carrying a silver AA chip. He kneels at Danny's grave, places the chip, 6 months freshly earned, on the headstone. "My sponsor told me about you," he says. "Said you stayed sober 249 days, said you died clean, said that matters." He pauses. "I'm on day 183. Sometimes I don't think I'll make it, then I think about you. About dying sober in the desert with your dad. About how you could have given up, could have broken, but you didn't." The chip gleams in the sunlight. "So, thanks for showing me it's possible." He stands, leaves the chip, walks away. The cemetery is silent except for wind through maple trees and the distant sound of traffic on Sconehair Road. Beneath the earth in Patty's casket, Jim's watch ticks. Tick, 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 keeping time, moving forward, running in darkness. Proof that some things, love, memory, legacy, don't stop when hearts do. They endure, they wait. And eventually they find their way home.